We go. All right, all right. Welcome to another episode of Mornings with Movers. We'll get started, y'all. As y'all know, I'm Dwyght Mack with Max Moving Training. We got Ryan Marsh. He ain't got his tags up, so he's a mover, entrepreneur. You name it, he got it. Um, what's
It took
going
me
on,
like a
good
month and
sir?
a half, man, to figure out how to get that stupid name tag down. I had to reach out to the Warmly name tags. It drove me nuts. Drove
Gotcha,
me crazy.
gotcha. So, how's your week been?
Week's been good, man. I can't believe it's Thursday already. This week has absolutely flown by. Um,
Yes,
and every
it's
time I get the blessing of meeting with you, it's only one more day to the weekend, so I get excited for Thursdays.
right. Like even though my all my days blend now, so it's just I don't really get excited, but I always like to vent on these episodes.
I get pumped up for that. I literally, man, when I say I wait for this thing, I get excited for 9 o'clock on Thursdays. I do. I get all pumped up about it.
Um, all right, so today's topic, everyone, surprising Ryan because Ryan didn't know the topic today because he didn't do his homework. But no, I just gave it to him like 5 minutes ago.
I still
Uh,
didn't read it. What is the topic? I still don't know.
so we're gonna focus on talking about how you guys can. Hold on, as soon as my phone stopped popping up things, how you guys can make sure y'all ensure timely payments. So that's the link I sent to you, Ryan. So. Basically we'll go over step by step in a sense and try to give you some ideas on how to really implement it a little better. And then, Ryan can feed off of me, I feed off of Ryan, and we can kind of make sure that you guys are, making sure y'all get paid. Because that's the name
Yeah,
of the game, unless y'all just going out there to just work for free.
this is going to be a tough one for me, man. I can only count on less than a handful of times that we actually didn't actually get payment from a job. And usually, in return, if we didn't get payment or the customer didn't want to pay at the end of the job, it was because there's some sort of damage that was done to
Hmm.
the furniture where the customer did not want to pay. So, no, man, I love to hear what you got and what you think is what are some good best practices for collecting that payment.
Hey everybody, my name is Dwyght Mack with Max Moving Training. So we're gonna be doing a move and a pack today. But before we go in, there's just 10 basic rules that we just need to know before participating with this service. So number one, understand moving is a very, very stressful thing. The customer, they're uplifting their life from one location to another. They're having to call all these vendors and get all these suppliers in place so that basically they can make that transition. So their stress level is at the highest right now. We need to be a service provider that comes in and basically keep that stress level mitigated or very low. Come in as professionals and do our job the way we know how to do our job so that this customer is less stress during that move process. Number two, be on time. First impression is everything. You guys showing up outside of the window rubs the customer the wrong way. It messes up the rest of the move process. Even if you guys do the best job y'all can do, because one thing was off, this customer's mood is just off. Go up and beyond, be there before the time, as long as they're okay with it.
All right, so where you guys can find this is in the latest blog that's on Max Moving Training website, called Ensuring a Timely Payment at the End of the Job. So the first tip that we can go over is have a signed contract with a detailed timestamp. So that's going to be important, huge. So it's not just to have the signed contract when you guys get there and then just say that, hey, the customer didn't want to sign at the end and blah, blah, blah. So we don't know how to kind of go about payment. So one of the things to help with that is also having a timestamp. So typically a few of the CRMs that I used had timestamps in it. So as soon as you get to the job, you say, okay, hey, we're starting a job at 9 o'clock, or you can do this two different ways. So stick with me, y'all. So when you get to the job, you can clock in at 9 a.m. on your tablet and basically have the customer initial. So that's going to be step one. Step two is your team can call dispatch when they arrive. Say, hey, they arrive at 8:45. Hey, we boss, we're here on site at 8:45. Can you clock us in technically? Well, they're not clocking you in per se. They're basically notating that you arrived at the customer house at 8:45 in their internal system. So that now at the end of the job, if there's ever any dispute about time, one, they're probably tracking you on their trackers. And two, they got the timestamp saying that you guys showed up at 8:45. So that's your defense that you guys were there at the time that you were supposed to be there. And then if you guys are taking any breaks throughout the job. So, hey, you got there at 9, you're taking a break at 12. All right, well, make sure the customer notates that you took a break at 12. You got back in at 12:30 or whatever the case was. And then, at the end of the job, make sure that they signed that you guys were done by like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever the case is. And that in that case, you got 4 signatures. So in any case, if the customer is disputing that, oh, you guys really wasn't here that long, or like I don't get it why I have to pay so much, whatever the reasons are, hey, you signed throughout the whole job, every second that we were here, every second that an event happened. What do you mean that we weren't here until 4? What do you mean we didn't get here at 9? And and then again, we used to clock our guys out from the office. So let don't obviously not putting it in our hands of our drivers because of that exact situation where the customer like, well, one of you guys was not really working. Can we take an hour off or 2 hours off or whatever the case is? When the office steps in, it's kind of more of an authoritative side of things where they're not gonna be frenzy with the customer like, oh yeah, well, one of the guys was want me to take 2 hours. No, they're gonna go off at the timestamp, and the customer is gonna kind of like let that resonate a little bit with them. And in most cases, you're gonna the office will get the payment that they need. Anything on your end, Ryan?
No, we did things. So local moves, what we did is, so we did two things. We had two different, we either provided an estimate, which obviously actual time, or we did a flat rate, AKA guaranteed price is what we did up here in New York. But one thing we got into kind of a best practice with is say I estimated your move, Dwight, at 6 hours and it was, $1,500 or whatever the case was on the morning of the move. And again, everything was mostly over credit card for us. We didn't like dealing with checks. We obviously didn't deal with cash. It wasn't our type market. It was all credit card. We would actually collect the estimated amount on the morning of the move. So if it was $1,500 is what the estimate was, I was ringing Dwight's card as our guys are en route for $1,500. Now, when we
Mm,
finished the move, if it was an estimate basis where, hey, it went over and it was $1,589 because it went over a quarter hour or half an hour, we just let the customer know and then we charge the card for the difference. Or on the flip side, if it ended up being $1,400 for the move, we charge a card for $1,500. We just credit back that $100 to the customer's card, basically same day. That's how we rolled on local moves. Interstate was a bit different because it ran through the Unigroup system. On the morning of the load is when that basic credit card would be charged um, for that job. So that's
nice.
again one of the reasons why we didn't have a ton of issues. We did when I first started collecting payment at the end. People, moaning and complaining about, well, your guy estimated this. Why is it this? This is way more expensive. I'm not paying that. Oh, and by the way, you broke my chair. Fix my chair, I'll pay you. And it just got in this really back and forth. So we're like, no, man, we're not dealing with this. Let's charge up front on the morning of the move, and then we'll reimburse or charge additional at the end.
Okay, okay. Did you want to take over number two?
Oh shoot, I ain't even looking at this thing, man.
Oh,
Maintain clear communication throughout the job. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's just not even throughout the job, I would say. I'd even say back that up to throughout the whole process. So from the time that customer first reaches out to your office, setting those clear expectations of what basically a move looks like from womb to tomb. I think communication throughout the entire job is super critical. Let these folks know where they are, where they're going, where you guys are going, and obviously set the expectations very clear as to what your company is expected to do. But also, let's be real here. The customer has expectations too. We have expectations for the customer, what they're supposed to do. Whether it be the packing or they have things ready to go or the sidewalks. It's that time of the year here. I don't know if you got snow on the ground, Dwight, but I woke up to that white stuff this morning again. But
mm-hmm.
making sure that the customer, hey, are they throwing salt on? Are they doing their thing? So yeah, communication throughout the whole move, throughout that whole job is super critical.
Yeah, and to hit on that a little bit, similar to what you'll read is one of those things. Make sure that your guys, your dispatcher, your operations person is getting a hold of the customer, whether it's 2 days in advance, whether he's, keeping an eye on the weather and saying that, hey, in 2 days, oh, it's supposed to be 70, 70, 70% chance that it's going to be snowing. So just in case if it is, hitting on what Ryan said, if you can just throw some salt on the ground just so that basically it's not icy, slippery, whatever the case is, if they can clear a path, because it's not your guys' job to do snow removal when you get there, that'd be very helpful. Um, then in the morning of the job, just letting the customer know, your guys letting the customer know, hey, we're going to be en route. We should be there maybe around like 30 to 40 minutes from now so that they keep an eye out for you guys. Not having an exact time that you guys are going to get there because, that's the worst where your CRM tells the customer, hey, we'll be here at 9 a.m. and you guys get there at 9:02, 9:05. Now the customer's pissed because they're looking out the window since 8:55.
Number three, make sure your team is in uniform, they're groomed, their hygiene is checked, because that's the worst thing you could do, especially going in a house. Customer could smell your guy from a mile away, and now, again, their mood is just thrown off. So make sure that you guys are in uniform, you're tight, you have uniform shirts, it doesn't look like, you have a laborer that's, hired from off the street. Presentation is everything that goes towards your first impression. Number four, introduce both you and your partner when greeting the customer. Don't just go to the door by yourself, while your driver is unloading the truck and introduce yourself. Actually have both of you there. Introduce yourself first, then introduce your partner second, and then, allow them to welcome you into their home.
Yeah. Well, no, I tell you, I mean, and that's the thing, man. Leverage technology, all right, with all the different CRM systems out there. That you can have. I love your, did you reach out 2 days before, 3 days before? We had a solid cadence. So we were a week out, 5 days out, 3 days out, the night before. Was basically our touch points on all moves, right? Because every time we go ahead and make that call, is you're packing ready to go. Hey, I heard that there's weather that's coming, but now with all the software out there, I mean, this is all the stuff you can automate. So you don't ever forget to make the 7 day call, the 5 day call, the 3 day call. But one thing we also used to do within the software is during the winter months, we would have that as part of their confirmation process, kind of our winter hazard letter that would basically go in to the customer automatically, a couple times throughout the move, just to make sure, hey, if it does snow, if it does this, if there is ice, you're responsible for A, B, C, X, Y, Z, sort of say. But the other nice piece with software, and it's out there now, which is pretty cool, is I used to drive me nuts, right? You tell a customer, hey, I'm going to be there between 9 and 10. As you said, Dwight, at 9:02, what's happening? That customer's calling your office being like, where's the crew? You guys said between 9 and 10. Well, it's 9:02. Like, give us a second. But then old practice was, hey, we're calling the driver, which is probably not the best thing because we know he's in the vehicle driving. So is he really going to answer the phone? Probably not, right? Or what's he going to do? He's going to pull that truck over, hourly basis, right? They get paid by the hour. He's going to pull that truck over and then call you, which is going to add 10, 15 minutes to that customer journey there. So new, well, it's not even new, but now if as soon as your crew leaves the office and on their tablet they hit basically start job, it shoots a GPS tracker right to the customer's cell phone. So they can click on that link and they can actually see where they're moving Uber, as we'll call it, see where their guys are. So they can watch them in real time. So it eliminates that call. Plus, if there's traffic or anything, it basically alerts them to know, like, hey, this is where your guys are. This is when they're going to be at your home. So it's like booking an Uber. But yeah, I leverage just not out of technology when it comes to a lot of these things to alleviate that pain.
And mind you, guys, Ryan's talking about, the perfect world, ideal perfect world. In most cases, that driver might answer when he calling while he driving. Ryan might have had those good drivers. I don't know, but
No, our drivers would be calling. He'd have a cheeseburger in one hand, a cell phone in the other, driving with his knees. I'm sure that was probably what was going on. Man, this sun is killing me here.
yeah. So, definitely clear communication, y'all. Throughout the job, if one of you guys have to take a break, he should be letting the lead person know. The lead person should be letting the customer know that, hey, he had to take a break. And and if it's a long break, you all break together. If it's like a 2, 3 minute wind break, okay, the rest of your guys can keep working because you don't want to have to keep taking personalized breaks because one guy needs to take literally a 15-minute break. At that point, y'all all take a break.
Yeah, I'd say
Um,
another thing, along with just to not to add too much
mhm,
into it, but along with the communication through the job, I think what's even more critical, just as critical as that, is basically the handoff, right? So you have basically the handoff from sales to ops, then ops to dispatch, dispatch to crew, now crew to customer. So I challenge all these companies, what does that handoff look like? Is all the information being, everything that the salesperson gathered, is that all getting to ops? Does your operations have enough? Do they know enough about that move to make the correct decisions of what they have to do? And then basically the handoff from the ops to dispatch to basically schedule that move. Do they know the critical pieces of the move? And then again, what does it look like when the drivers and the crew shows up at the customer's home? Is this just a transactional piece, or is it a truly a beautiful little handoff, sort of say? So all lines of communication have been basically communicated through, rather than communicated to the guys.
yep. And with the, again, technology, leveraging technology, it's to that point now where basically you can save your voice recordings of a call from sales and just insert that link right into your CRM so that basically your dispatcher operations people can pick up right where you left off. There'd be no miscommunication. Or go back to old school. Make sure that people know how to document notes. Hey, you don't have to write everything down, but bullet point the highest highlight point to that conversation so that basically hey, okay, well, they said that they got a big dresser we need to watch out for. Hey, we got a long walk from the where we can park the truck to where their door is. It don't have to be every single step, as long as whoever's on sales is taught how to notate the most important stuff. Don't just put them on a call and say, oh, well, I expected they know how to notate, you know.
Honestly, I wonder how many people that are listening or watching, how many of these guys or moving companies send out like an email or a text, aka meet my crew the day before the move, or meet your crew. So if I'm moving you, Dwight, on a Friday, Thursday afternoon, you're getting an email or text based on your preferred method of communication,
Mhm.
which is what I found, when I was having my first phone call with you and you first called into the moving company. But how many folks are sending just a quick, if it's if three people in a truck, boom, boom. Your driver and your two leads picture, short little kind of funny bios, maybe two, three sentences. You're like, hey, meet Dwyght. He's a New York Knicks fanatic. I've been a mover for 8 years, blah, blah. He's super excited to service your move tomorrow. But just to kind of almost give that customer like, oh, okay, I know who's coming. Like, I just feel like anything to kind of ease that experience and give that customer the heads up, kind of back to your communication piece. Many ways to communicate that stuff, right? So
Mhm.
that was one thing that I found that we did that worked really, really well, is kind of meet your moving crew 24 hours in advance. Now, yes, sometimes, when a guy calls in, I'm not saying, hey, meet your new team because I just had Ricky call out today. No, but at least it was another way to get in front of the customer, keep them warm, and give them the heads up, right? Because who are these strange men coming to their house? They're no longer
Mhm.
strange when you send that prior to, and we found that it just made that experience just so much more pleasant.
Oh yeah, and they feel like they have a personal level of like, oh, we really know that guy, like that internal feeling. So when you get there and they start talking to you, you're like, how'd you know that? And
Yeah.
it's kind of
Just
like,
don't use AI generated photos. Use the guy's real photos.
so all right. So number three, handle damage claims professionally. So, this basically takes you back to one, when you get to the job, obviously make sure that you have the process in place where your guys are before they start wrapping stuff and you're doing your walk around and you are assessing exactly the situation. Obviously your guys should be bringing in blankets around that time, but at the same token, your guys should be examining the piece that they're moving, taking any photos of any damages or whatever the case is, letting the driver know that hey, they found a piece of some damage on a piece of furniture versus you got 3 4 guys on a job and everybody's running to the customer, hey, you got a piece of damage right here, right? You got a damage right here, right? Hey, miss, can you come over here? We got some more damage over here. That's very overwhelming for the customer. Likelihood, sometimes they already know they got damage, and then sometimes they're not even worried about it because they're so stressed about the move. So, giving it away where your driver can probably notate it, maybe on a tablet or wherever, bullet point, hey, the dresser in room one had an actual scratch on its leg. The table in the dining room has a chip. on it or whatever the case is. And basically, once he notates that, he goes up to the customer and he actually takes the time out, pull the customer aside, and walk the customer around. Now, ideally, is that practical? It could take a while, yes, but in a way, it's a way to protect yourself as well as making sure that you guys take pictures of this stuff as well before you wrap it. Um, what's your take, I guess, on that part, Ryan?
I see. With the claims aspect for us was pretty simple, right? Just having a good set of guys that, if we do damage, right, things happen. And I think most customers are pretty realistic knowing that, hey, on a move, a lot of moving pieces, there's a very high probability that there'll be some type of, it could be a very small scratch or it could be a monstrosity of a claim. So I think just bring it to the customer's attention immediately. I think you'll notice, especially depending on the size of the damage or what type of damage it is, I think will assist with that potential claim, or if the customer even decides to file a claim, just based on crew's honesty. I think, hey, I'm super, super sorry. Our guys, we're walking backwards. I tripped over this. I scratched the bottom of your chair. I'm going to report this to the office. I just think the better, whatever script sort of say, or I hate to use the word script, but just making sure the guys that if there is any type of damage, just push that to the customer immediately. Because once you start hiding one thing, and I saw this, many, many, many times over, when there's damage and you don't tell the customer that there's damage and the customer finds the damage, it's a whole different story. That $100 claim turns into a $2,500 claim really quickly because what's that customer doing? If they think you slighted them once or tried to get something by them, they're going through every little piece of furniture, finding every little nick. They're looking for everything at that point,
Hmm.
which can tie back into, hey, collecting payment. Because, hey, if they're thinking you're being shady, hiding damage, there's a big claim, they're probably not going to pay you, and it's going to be a
Yeah.
disaster. So,
So yeah, basically be sincere. I don't want to give you guys the tip of the trade, but be sincere when you guys get sign damage. Kind of be apologetic. Let them know that, hey, something happened, like Ryan mentioned. Hey, you tripped going backwards down the stairs or whatever the case is. Don't make it seem like it's their fault, but make it seem like, hey, mistakes happen. And in most cases, they'll be empathetic about it and they'll work with you and they'll say, okay, you know what? It was an older piece. I'm not worried about it. Oh, it really meant something to me or whatever the case is. What can you guys do about it? So, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just report this, let my upper management know that, something did happen on the job or so like that. And rest assured, we will definitely take care of it and kind of go from there. Don't say, hey, you know what, we're going to give you this much money back. Don't say nothing about money. Just
yeah,
say that
don't.
the job, the upper management will take care of it and they'll have it notated. Um, and then, yeah, pretty much at the end of the job, if the customer brings it up saying, hey, you guys damaged like three pieces, what are you guys going to do about it? Whatever the case is, that's where, in my opinion, that's where the company should be on the call and say, hey, what we're going to do is what we want you to do is we're going to send you an email on how to start your claim process. The reason why we do this is because we really want you to take the time to assess if there's any other items that may have been affected in the move besides just the three that you mentioned. And because basically we want you to just make essentially one good claim. And you can reword it differently, but essentially one claim that we can make sure that you're compensated for everything that, our guys may have messed up. And most customers are like, okay, that makes sense. I don't want to, tell you that these three pieces and then have to call you back tomorrow and tell you there was another one or two pieces.
Yeah.
And I could kind of ease that stress level a little bit. Um,
All this stems from that initial phone call in, right? How is the customer treated? How much trust and rapport is built? Sending Meet My Team, doing proper walkthroughs, documenting damage, and just doing right by the customer. I just feel like the more we can build up front, the better chance of you actually having a claim, even if there is damage. That customer is going to just be like, "Wow, Dwyght and his team, they've been incredible throughout this entire time. They've been communicative, they've been thorough, they've been this, they've been that." Do I really want to go through the process of making a couple $100 claim on an old ass chair that I've had forever that I don't really care about?
mhm.
Now, flip that script, hey, these guys showed up late, they didn't communicate, they did this, that. Customer's probably making the claim. So I
Yeah.
just feel like so much can be handled right up front, just in how you treat that customer and provide that level of experience, um, to ultimately assist with, does the claim happen, or do they bypass that claim just because you guys were 99.9% perfect throughout the entire time? And again, mistakes happen.
hmm So, and that ties into number four. I was gonna have Ryan read it, but Ryan was already talking about it. They're building a rapport
Yeah,
with
build rapport
customers.
through the move. All right.
It starts from the beginning. Throughout the whole course of the move. If you guys are so silent that they're not talking and they're just moving or whatever the case is, the customer may not have the best of experience. Unfortunately, customers are talkative. They want to feel like you're, in a sense, a friend during the course of the move versus a stranger that they don't know. So, yes, talk and move. Don't sit there and, you pick up a piece and the customer starts talking to you. You literally just stand there with the piece in your hand, wait for the conversation to be over. No, kind of like talk and move, be proactive. And just let the customer know, hey, I'll be right back. We'll pick up right where we left off at, or whatever the case is. I just want to run this out to my guys real quick. And they'll much appreciate it. Oh, yeah, he's working. You know what? Let me dial it back with the talking a little bit so they can get it done. You know?
You got to find a way to make every move memorable somehow, some way.
Mhm.
That was always, what can we do? How do we make this particular experience memorable to the customer? By doing
So
little things. So, it could have been bringing garbage out at the end of the move, because garbage day for them is a Tuesday. It comes up in conversations. It could be vacuuming their home as we're getting ready to leave. As the guys are buttoning up the truck, just having one crew member zip through that lower floor, wherever there's carpet, and do a quick vacuum. I tell you what, you want to blow a customer's mind away? Vacuum their house for 6, 7 minutes after a job. Ask them if you can take out their garbage or the recyclable bin or whatever the case is. We did that quite often, and it showed in our reviews.
yeah. And I've even heard things such as if they have a dog or whatever the case is, and you want to bring a little pet treat. You could do that. Now, if they got a baby, don't bring no baby, no candy, and not like that, because
No
you can't force
chocolate.
everybody's candy. But little doggy treats. When I worked at a bank several years ago, we used to have little doggy treats in the jar. So when customers came up to the drive-through window, we if we seen a dog in the car, we would get a dog a doggy treat or whatever the case is. And it just shows a little compassion. We also did newsletters or automated drip campaign emails when the customer came into our system, give them value. So we would do like, oh, pet lover tips, things to prepare your pet for a move because pets are a little bit more aggressive during the move because they don't know what's going on and they're too overwhelmed.
You put them in a car, you take them to the new house, Dwight. That's what you do.
That is the
So we
simplest way to
did.
go about it.
I'm a huge animal lover, right? I got dog, German Shepherd. We used to have a little pet pamphlet of all the things how to prep, and I, I'm a huge dog lover. I'm probably gonna get jumped by Peter or something with this thing, but I remember reading through this pamphlet, and it was like, take your dog to the new, get him acclimated to the car, get him acclimated. I'm like, my dog loves to. You just grab the keys, he's ready to go. He doesn't care where he's going. He just wants to get in the damn car, right? But then it was like, get to the new destination and walk your dog and show him his new potty spot. Let him sniff the new grass. Well, the grass I have in front of my house here smells just like the grass 3 blocks over where I'm going. So there was some great tips in there, but at the end of the day, I mean, if moving internationally, sure, you're going to want to prep your pet for flights and all that stuff and airports and whatever. But if you're moving in the same hood, put that dog in your car and drive that son bitch to your new house. Put him in the backyard. He's going to be just fine.
Oh, wait. You can't say that to the pet lovers. I gotta get their dogs dressed up with the boots and the
No,
scarf.
they don't need the boots, the helmets, the gloves. Just put them in the damn car. Drive them 3 blocks over, put them in the backyard. And again, I'm a huge animal lover. It probably doesn't sound like it, but you want to throw some treats in the back, just just take them over. Your dog gonna
Mhm.
be just fine. I swear.
All right, yeah. So tip number five, offer flexible payment options. So again, this goes back to communication earlier on in whole process. Whether you're doing financing for moves, which we talked about last episode, whether you're doing finance options for moves, letting the customer know that, hey, you know what, pay 25% now, pay a small portion at the end of the move, or don't pay nothing at the end of the move, depending on your finance company. Um, or setting the tone for hey how much they need to pay at the beginning of the move, similar to what Ryan was saying, where Ryan was saying hey we did flat rate, so they paid everything up front, and if there was a difference they'll pay the difference at the end, or we'll reimburse them if the time was shorter. Again, all comes down to communication, letting them know exactly what your process is. You should receive a deposit. I know there's very, very many companies that don't receive deposits and say, hey, this works for us. We don't want to scare our customers away. But it ties nothing it doesn't tie anything, the customer to you or you to that customer if you don't take a deposit. That customer can go with somebody, right? Decide to go with somebody else. And now your crew show up that day and they're literally at the house. And I've been in a situation where my crew showed up to a house and there was another company already moving them.
So what do
And
you
don't
do
get me
in
wrong, we took
states where like it has to be a refundable deposit via credit card? So like New
Mhm.
York State, like prior to, you could not accept deposits in New York. I believe from what I read, I don't know if it was last month, I think you can take deposits in New York, but it must be on a credit card. So that way the customer base, if something happens, they've got a right to fight it, get their money back or what have you. So I guess what do you do on something like that where you take a customer's deposit, say it's $200, and 48 hours prior to the move, they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Dwight, I found a mover for $50 less."
So in that case, you got to speak value. That's all you can do in that case because you want to salvage the move to the best of your benefit, your ability, because
24-hour cancellation policy,
that is
basically
rough.
$250 or whatever the case. We had that, but I don't think I ever used it to
Yeah.
be.
So we used to tell the customers, obviously they do have, we actually had to get down to the point of telling them that they had 24 hours to cancel their service, but there was never anything about reschedules. So that was kind of like the loophole where you could say, well, hey, you got 72 hours to reschedule your move, or there'll be a fee attached to it.
And the other thing too, knowing your customers, knowing who you're moving, I'm sure all of us movers, you know who's going to be a good client as long as you keep up, as long as you do your side of the house, right?
Mhm.
We know who are the troublesome customers could be. If it starts off argument, I just feel like unless something really pops up that just is unforeseen, like a medical issue, a death, or a last minute closing change. I feel like we all kind of know who our customers, or you should. I said we knew, but if you're just pricing over the phone and just, hey, oh, you got a 3 bedroom apartment, okay, yeah, $1,100 will be there on Tuesday. You don't know your customer at all. So I think that's one thing is get to know your customer, get to learn your customer, get to find out what's going on in their world. To me, it truly helped create that move program for the customer, a really customized one. But again, and if it's even hinting that they're going to be a troublesome customer, why deal with it? We
Yeah.
did. It's okay to say no.
Don't be afraid to say no. I know that a lot of people want to worry about keeping the money and making money and worry about leads and jobs for their guys. But if you're starting to realize that you're getting a lot of last minute cancellations, one, you got to assess where these leads are coming from, which goes back to your marketing strategy. And then two, what are you saying on that call that that would even, you know, put that idea in their mind that they could just be canceling last minute?
It's again setting the tone up front. Not that you can
Mhm.
tell a customer you can't cancel up front, but my whole thing was I was very transparent and just like, hey, if we understand things happen. If you've got to reschedule, if you have to cancel, if you have to change, that's 100% okay. I just need to know as soon as possible. But again, that goes back to communicating your capacity, showing your capacity calendar. We were just super transparent with all our customers.
Yeah.
They knew how many jobs we were doing in a day. They knew what was available for them. They knew, hey, if they canceled on this Wednesday move, that we probably can't get to them for another 2.5 to 3 weeks. And that was if. That's if we had another cancellation. So I think by showing your true capacity, letting them know where you all stand, I think just again, back to that ultimate experience, just being open and transparent with the customer goes a long freaking way.
Yep, that definitely makes sense. Let's see where we are. Yeah. So, all right. So yeah, that was a big one. The next one is it hints back to what we were already talking about this whole time.
You
Set
you can
expectations early.
I love this, but these can all be bottled up, right? Like it all to me,
Uh-huh.
everything comes down. Like if you're having issues, whether it be collecting payment with claims, customer, it all starts from the beginning. It all starts from that first call in, setting the tone, setting the expectations, and driving the customer through how you guys operate. Uh,
Hmm.
to me, I know it sounds simple, but I know there's a lot of folks that just don't do that. They kind of let the customer drive the organization. It's one thing. I mean, who's moving who? Is the customer moving us or are we moving the customer? I know it probably sounds a little bad, but it was. get we're the professionals. We know what's going to work. Now, got to be good listeners. If they want something odd or they want to tweak something, that's fine. But we got to get these people on our program to be successful. I mean, imagine telling a plumber how to do their job at your house with no experience in plumbing. You think you're going to have leaky pipes? Probably. I know I would if I told a plumber what to do. I'd have leaks all over the place. So, same thing with a mover, right? We got to get them on our program. Start right from the get-go.
Exactly. So again, my policy towards the end of the move, guys, and again, you're setting the tone early with the customer, letting the expectation know. I used to say something similar to this, where it's like, hey, so today what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a 25% down deposit, make sure that hold on, let me reword that. It's been a little while. So we're going to take a 25% down deposit to lock in your move today. And then at the end of the move, you'll pay the remaining balance pending no additional time. If the guys get done sooner than the expected time, then you will only pay the balance that's due for that expected time, with a 3 hour minimum in mind. So the customer's like, okay, so I know you're estimated for I know we're estimated for 7 hours. So you're saying if they get done in 5 hours, you only charge me for 5 hours. Minus what we already gave you for the 25% down deposit. Exactly. So now when the guys get done around the 5 hour marker, they're calling the office. And now when they call the office, we're doing a checklist. And I created this checklist process because I didn't want anybody forgetting what questions to ask. So we had questions for the movers that we need to ask at the end, and we had questions for the customer. Questions for the movers would be something similar to, hey, did the guys get all the equipment in the truck? Simple enough. They'll forget it. Did the guys fold up all of the blankets? Is the truck cleaned? So basically, one, that ensures two things. The truck is prepared to potentially go back out the next day, or if they got another job, the truck is ready. Two, it ensures that nothing is being left on the truck because, oh, the blankets were so piled up that there was something underneath the blankets, and now the customer is complaining that some theft or something's missing. Um, and then three, you could slide in, hey, did you guys, I know that you guys said that the customer gave you a blender. Did y'all get a receipt for that? And we would have like receipt waivers that the guys would have the customer sign so that basically it didn't come back a week, 2 weeks from now. Oh, I didn't give the guy a blender, you
Yeah,
know.
I didn't give that guy my PS5.
Right. And then so with the main two questions, did everything get back in the truck? Is the truck ready to go leave? Because technically you guys folded the blanket, you unfolded the blankets at the customer house. You guys should be folding the blankets on the customer's time. So, that was our policy. The truck shouldn't come back and then you guys are folding it off the clock and expecting to be paid for it. Or don't even want to do it because you're like, oh, I'm not getting paid for this. I know, Ryan, I know you got some feedback on that part, but go ahead.
No, actually, I don't have much on the fold pads on customer time, right?
Okay.
No, I don't, because honestly, I don't remember what our process was there. Did we fold them there, or I think we're just lucky to get all the pads on the truck, get them back to the warehouse. Guys would basically fold some pads and do some things there, clean out their truck. But yeah, I mean, the trucks were clean and ready to roll at the end of that job, 100%. I just don't remember exactly were we folding them bad boys up on customer time because some guys take a while to fold pads. You
Hmm.
know? But no,
So,
I believe we did it. We get back to obviously check. Well, the other thing too about putting not just throwing pads onto the truck is what can happen. You're pulling pads off, you're throwing things. You could have a stack of boxes. Well, you're throwing pads on that stack of boxes. Customer never gets those. You guys drive back to the warehouse. Now you're pulling your pads off to fold the pads. Oh shoot, we got three of Dwight's boxes sitting here. Oh man, now what do you got to do? Hopefully
hmm
it's a super super close move. It's not 45 minutes an hour away. So you got to go on. I'd have to put those boxes in my car and deliver it out. But
super
no,
annoying too to have to go and do that because
oh,
it's very time
100%.
consuming.
Yeah.
Um, we used to be in Green Island, New York area, so to the point where sometimes these guys might have left the washer hoses in the truck because they didn't properly fold the blanket. And now the customer lives in Boston Spa,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, well, I got to drive out 30, 45 minutes just to drop off water hoses that they need, clearly.
Yeah, so I'd be doing an Amazon next day delivery for the exact hoses right to the front door. Like, you know what? We got you brand new ones because those other ones were leaky.
So, and then now the next questions we would ask is, hey, customer Jane, did you do a walk around the house to make sure everything was where you needed it? And then how did everything go today? And I know that's a weird question to ask, but basically in that case, what you want to do is make sure that it's just the driver and the customer. The movers, are in the truck. They make sure that everything's ready to go. So as soon as the driver comes out the house, they can get going on the road. So just make sure it's the customer and the driver or whoever's handling the paperwork. And you're saying, hey, how did your job go today? Give us your honest feedback because the worst thing is hearsay. The customer kind of tell you, oh, well, the job was amazing, blah, 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 blah. And then they call you 2 hours later after the guys left. Well, really, they did a really horrible job. And if the one of the movers would just have moved a little faster, I think the job could have went a lot smoother, or whatever the case is. And now you got to go to your guys. Hey, so they said one of the y'all were moving very slow. Who was it? Well, none of us was moving very slow. That customer was like just out of their mind. And then you're going back and forth, and they're just like, come on. Like,
I always like to text the customer. So I never wanted to. Now the driver, the crew. Let's be real. The driver and the crew knows how good the move's going. In reality, they do. Now, whether they tell us how well that is, but I'd always just send the customer text throughout the move. I didn't want to call them because a on the being all quiet on the phone because the movers are around them. The last thing they want to do is tell on a mover if they're not doing the best of a job because what's going to happen? It's going to create an awkward piece. So I found that texting the customer, just kind of checking in, you know, keyboard warriors, right? A lot easier for a customer to go ahead and type, "Your guys suck," or "This move is amazing," or whatever. Plus, they're not spilling the beans around the guys, so it was a great way for me to kind of gauge where they're at. I felt, at least for me and our customers, that just made it a lot easier for the customer to communicate how they were truly feeling. Um, 'cause it just seemed a heck of a lot easier doing that over text. But I don't know. To each their own on that one. I didn't like to have that conversation with the driver and the customer because I felt like it puts the customer on the spot. It puts the driver on the spot. Now, if your driver calls and is like, "Yo, man, this move we crushed it. Customers doing cartwheels. They gave us $150 a piece tip." Yeah, I'm probably going to call the customer. "Hey, I heard the move is going so, heard the move went amazing." Right? Lead it with that, not ask her, "Hey, how'd the move go?"
Mhm.
So I try to lean in on the guys with that, but for the most part, it was I was texting the customer to find out what was going on.
Okay. Yeah. So you could do it too.
Many different ways.
Yeah, you could do it many different ways that suit your company and make the customer feel comfortable and make sure that they're not on the spot. Some customers will just blatantly tell you their experience. Some customers might be shy.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why the text, man. Keyboard warriors. People can be people say anything over text or email or what have you. I feel like you find the true side of people when they can just do all
mhm.
that stuff. But one thing I don't know if we chatted about, and maybe we did. My brain's kind of dead today on a Thursday, but back to that communication, obviously customers getting multiple quotes, right? Some companies do things a little bit different. Some companies move live plants. Some don't. Some companies will, excuse me, break down beds. I do know there's some companies that don't. So a good practice to get into, and it takes 5 to 6 minutes, is you know you have customer calls in, you do your thing, you do your virtual survey and home, whatever you do it. You send the customer the quote. Customer takes a day or two, whatever. The customer finally goes, "Hey, I want to move with Max Moving." Right? They call, they want to book the move. Once they book the move, one thing I'd always do is I'd review the content moving again, whether it be on the cube sheet or what have you. I'd go over kind of that whole process again of what it looks like, what are not allowed. Basically, just kind of give a 5 minute overview of what that move is going to look like and what we are doing versus what the customer is doing, just to stop any confusion. Because I can tell you how many times our guys would get there and we had a no live plant policy. It just is what it is. Clearly we had some claims there and some issues, but guys would get there like, "Oh well, Ryan said you guys said you moved to live plants." Well, no, we don't move live plants. Well, that was company ABC moving or whatever the name was that said, "Hey, they did live plants while we didn't." So I found quite often that when customers are getting multiple quotes, people have different processes, people allow different things on a move. So for me to ensure I was going to have a smooth move and kind of communicate through to that customer, I'd review that quote with them, price, how we collect payment, whatever, one more time before that move was actually put on the schedule. It just saved a lot of headache on the back end. No surprises either.
I hear that.
Nobody likes surprises.
So I think lastly, because Ryan be, throwing me off of my checklist. Um,
How many more things you got on this checklist?
like no, I'm talking about my checklist at the end of the move.
Oh,
So, all
my
right.
bad.
So then now, depending on your CRM, at this point, if you have it in your CRM where the steps are to ask the customer for what is it called? What's the best word? A gratuity. Uh, you can then ask in the process of closing out the job. So, hey, it's solely up to you if you wanted to lead the guys any tips today, whatever the case is, because a lot of people know that gratuity word. If you wanted to lead the guys a little tip or a little something for today's move or whatever the case is. Now, in the old CRM that we used, it actually had a percentage right in the workflow of closing out the job. So customers like, well, how much do I really tip? And you hate to tell customers, oh well, some people tip $100, $150, or some people tip $20, some people tip nothing, because it doesn't give them something to go off of because they don't have a baseline. And for that exact reason, there's been times where we got like $17 split between three guys. Oh, go get
Yeah.
your guys something go get something to drink for your guys. The hell?
Everybody go get a Red Bull before they go home.
So in that case, it's not mandatory that they need to tip, but it's very helpful if you have some leadway, like, oh, well, 3% of your total bill will be this. And they're like, oh, 3% sounds reasonable. Oh, 5% sounds even better. You know what? These guys really worked hard. I'm gonna get them to 10%. And now they don't have to think because that 10% is telling them, well, hey, your bill was $1,000. So we're gonna give them $100 to split between the three of them, $33 each. And in that case, it's weird because when we dished out the tips, we probably would just give somebody like the driver maybe $34 and give the rest of them $33 just because we didn't feel like breaking up cents.
Yep.
Um,
That's where having a powerful CRM system comes into play, man. It was one thing our guys, we did not discuss tip. We didn't talk about tip at all. I just didn't want that, because if you do a great job, customer is going to tip you. If you go above and beyond just the normal, what have you, you're going to get even greater tips. So what I loved is with the driver collecting payment on his tablet, reviewing, okay, I ended up taking us 6 hours. You already prepaid this, that, but boom, here you go. Here's your total. Customer could basically swipe their card, enter their card details, and then boom, there it is. 10, 15, 20% tip with a dollar amount underneath. All customers got to do is just go bink, press that button and go. And we found our tips, 40% more tips, 40% more in customers tipping, and the average tip increased 30% through this model. And then what you could do is through this particular CRM is you actually had a kind of like a tip payout piece. So if that job brought in $250 on a tip and there was four movers there, you literally just click on the tip piece. It'll break up that tip between four guys. You can give more to you can do whatever. So for payroll purposes, it's right in there. But we never really discussed tip with customer. It was just in their face at the end of the job and seemed to work really well. But you got to have a software in place for that, obviously.
mhm. So again, guys, that article was tips for ensuring timely payment after moving services. So definitely go and read it if you want some more in-depth practical steps that you could be implementing. But I think we hit on a good amount of it. Just basically rewatching this episode and actually implementing some of these steps into your processes will just help you take it to that next level. Um, and then lastly, one of the ways also you can be so with tips, there's been ways where people are either putting the tips in people's payroll, so they have to wait a whole week for their tips to come, which was a nightmare. We've never ever wanted to do that. The guys work way too hard and they would like their tip that same day typically. But if it's a credit card tip, we did implement a process where they had to wait at least a day. Um, Obviously, cash tips, they take care of that on a job. I don't even want to know what it was.
Mhm.
But with credit card tips, because we had to report it for tax purposes, we would know because basically, again, our dispatcher will be clocking the crews out. So soon as we know what the tips are, we implemented a Google form. The Google form will have all of our guys listed on staff with their Cash App name, etc. And basically, we would put the customer's ID, the customer's job, code or whatever the case is, just in case if that customer had like three jobs, packing, moving, cleaning that all took place over different days. We would code it so we knew which job it was tied to for financial reasons. And then basically we would put like again, select the guys who were on that job, who's to get paid out, what the total tip amount was, and then we will send it to our financial controller. And by the next day, by at least 3 o'clock, the financial controller would send out cash apps to all of the people with their tip amounts. And we would go from there and basically, hey, again, we have record that they got paid. We got record in our system that everything went out smooth, and the guys understood the policy that it'll be the next day.
Did anyone think about a competition with tips between crews? Which crews collect the most tips in a particular quarter? Which typically the biggest amount of tips typically follows through with who provided the best level of experience. So if you
Now,
have something in place, you could say, who's getting the most tips? Why is Dwyght averaging $100 per move? Ryan's averaging $8.50 per move. Why is that? So we'd have
mhm.
inner competitions of, hey, who collects the most tips, aka who provides the best experience. And then what we do is we would match. So if Dwyght made $500, $600 in tips in that quarter, or actually it wasn't five, so it was more like 2 grand in that quarter, we would actually pay our highest tip guy. We have first, second, and third place, and pay them accordingly. Just another fun way to have a little bit of competition to see who can create the best experience and gain the most tips.
Yeah, and you can also let the guys know, like if you know how to calculate it, you can let the guys know, hey, your average pay rate, you came in at $20 an hour, but your average pay rate with your credit card tips and everything like that, you're looking at about you're a $40 an hour employee. Like you're doing really good. If there's anything else we can do to help you, kind of like encouragement or whatever the case is, because basically it's one hand feeds the other. Granted, yes, they're getting a tip, so they may say, well, that's my doing or whatever the case is. But it comes down to it's a team. We're all communicating because we're all communicating that customer was satisfied. So, you can reward that guy who's getting oh, well, you're $40 an hour employee. Don't just say, well, because you're that, I expect this. Encourage them. Well, hey, you're doing really, really good out there. Incentivize them. Hey, because if you can keep that up, we'll like Ryan said, we'll probably match it, give you a reward or something because we know that you're doing that well. And then because they know that they're a $40 an hour employee, they're super excited. Like, oh, geez, I didn't know I was making that much.
It's different times, different employees at this point, man. You go back 20 years, not even 20 years, right? Like you pay a guy $20 an hour, whatever, like they work their behinds off, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm not saying guys don't take pride by any means, but I gotta be careful what I say because I might piss off a bunch of people. But it's a new level of workforce now. I mean, you just look at, for me talking to hundreds of moving companies each week, there's moving companies that incentivize their guys for showing up on time and showing up in uniform. Like, so as an old school guy, right? Kind of old soul, what have you, like, of course you should be on time. And of course you should be in uniform. Like, why am I bonusing my guy? Unfortunately, it's where we're at. You want to, keep some retention, keep that top 10. I mean, unfortunately, these are some of the things that we just have to do. And I do this on a personal level with my business. I incentivize a lot of crazy things,
Mhm.
like cleanliness. Everybody should be clean. When the health department comes through and does an inspection, if we get a perfect score, everybody gets $100 bill. Everybody on the team gets $100 bill. Like, but am I really incentivizing cleanliness? Like, should
In
I
a
have
way.
to? But no, and we're the cleanest damn place in town. We've had 3 health inspections, all 100% score. That's great. Now, it costs me money every time, but at the same time, I don't have to worry about name being in the paper of, oh, we got a busted seal, or God, I found old tomatoes in the corn. Like, I don't have to worry about that.
Well, that
So
may go back to what you were just saying though about incentivizing the crews to wear their uniform and show up on time.
these are the things that I see companies doing that to me, I'm just like, man, I can't believe. Like, they get an extra $2 an hour if they show up on time and in uniform. Like,
Well, I guess
no,
I don't know
but it makes sense.
yeah, I guess I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's almost compared to when you said that basically you give your people your staff $100 to keep the restaurants clean. Whereas
Yeah.
like, well, hey, ain't it your job after you prep the food to clean up behind yourself? Why
Yeah,
should I
clean
pay
up
you?
after your mess, right? You would think so, but again, setting that standard and kind of, do I want it just clean or do I want it super clean? I
Mm.
guess is a different because, my cleanliness is probably different from your cleanliness,
Mm.
and your cleanliness is probably different than John Jones, or bad name to use, whatever, John somebody, right? Everybody has different mentality when it comes to cleanliness or what uniform is. To me, uniform, you got a company shirt, you're in the khakis or the black cargo shirt, whatever the heck the piece is. But for some guys, uniform is, do I got my pajama pants and a hooded sweatshirt on and my flip flops? Like, no, that's not. That's bedtime. That's pajamas. I don't see no movers wearing slides. Come on now.
Exactly. No Crocs.
No
But
Crocs.
but all right, y'all. So we are at the top of the hour. I hope you guys got a lot of value, and we're gonna be coming to you with a specific topic. Trying to go forward. Try to stay consistent with the specific topic. So if you guys got any questions, definitely don't hesitate to join our live.
Yeah, what's the topic next week? So I get on top of this the next,
I
I'll be
think I
ready to
was thinking
go.
about going over some tips on how to close out the year. Whether it's financially, whether it's some stuff that people could be putting in place to really close out the year to get ready for tax season. Because as we know, next year is tax season. Oh, next month is the start of tax season.
Yeah, I got taxes due December 20th.
Oh, geez.
Gotta
Yeah,
love it.
if you haven't been paying your quarterly taxes, make sure y'all on that. But all right, y'all. So keep crushing it. I know Christmas is coming up very soon. Get your Secret Santa stuff in place for your company. Whatever you got to do, make sure you guys feel warm and welcome for this season. All right. Anything on your end, Ryan?
No, man, Christmas is coming. Holidays are here, and time to make some hay. I know this was a really busy time for us right before Christmas. Then it slowed down basically Christmas and the day after, but then we were busy right up until New Year's again. So people trying to get in their new homes before Christmas, and then obviously getting to the new home before the New Year. So stay on top of it because these next couple weeks were always historically busy for our organization.
All right. Keep crushing it, y'all. We'll talk to y'all soon.